Welcome back to Voice of Africa, where we bring you powerful stories shaping the continent and the wider world. I'm thrilled you're here today because we're diving into a huge and unfolding story that reflects the tides of history, diplomacy, and a growing wave of self-determination across Africa. But first, let me say this clearly. Here at Voice of Africa, we do not support violence or hostility of any kind. Our mission is to inform, unite, and promote peace, justice, and dignity for all. Today, we're taking a closer look at Algeria's bold move to expel 12 French diplomats, an act that mirrors the decision recently taken by Burkina Faso. This isn't just a diplomatic incident, it's a signal that former colonies are no longer content with symbolic independence. They are standing up, speaking out, and redefining their relationships with former colonizers, especially France. Algeria and Burkina Faso may not see eye to eye on every issue at the moment, particularly with ongoing tensions in the Sahel involving Mali. But there's one thread that weaves them together: a deep-rooted frustration with France, a country whose colonial legacy casts a long and painful shadow across much of Africa. Algeria's decision to give 12 French diplomats just 48 hours to leave the country is the latest chapter in this ongoing reckoning. This move came days after France arrested 3 Algerian citizens on its soil, accusing them of being involved in the kidnapping of Amir DZ, better known as Amir DZ. A controversial TikTok figure and fierce critic of the Algerian regime, Amir fled to France and was granted asylum in 2023. But in April 2024, he was kidnapped outside of Paris. Luckily, he was released a day later. French prosecutors believe the kidnapping wasn't random, it was political. The 3 Algerians arrested are now in pre-trial detention, facing charges of terrorism and conspiracy. But Algeria is pushing back hard. They've condemned the arrests as unjustified and politically motivated. One of the detained individuals is a consular official, a diplomatic representative. In diplomatic terms, that's a serious red line. Algeria immediately summoned France's ambassador to express its fury and demand the release of their official. But France isn't backing down either. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot warned that if Algeria follows through with the expulsion of its diplomats, there will be retaliation. His exact words, "This move will not go unanswered." Before we go deeper into the fallout, I just want to take a moment to thank all my amazing members and subscribers. You are the heartbeat of this channel. Your support, your likes, your shares, and your thoughtful comments keep this mission alive. Thank you for standing with Voice of Africa as we unpack the truth behind the headlines and lift up African voices that too often go unheard. Now, back to the story. To fully grasp what's happening between Algeria and France today, we must go back nearly 2 centuries. In 1830, France made a fateful decision. Instead of continuing a trade relationship, they chose conquest. French troops invaded Algeria, sparking a violent colonization that would last 132 years. It was not just a takeover. It was a campaign of systemic oppression, brutality, and cultural erasure. Entire villages were burned. People were massacred, raped, and starved. Algeria's fertile lands were confiscated and handed over to European settlers. Their natural resources, gold, coal, iron, were looted. French officials went so far as to declare Algeria a formal extension of France itself, dividing it into departments as if it were part of mainland Europe. By the late 1800s, Algeria had lost over 1 million lives to colonial violence. The suffering didn't stop there. France carried out nuclear tests in the Algerian desert between 1960 and 1966. Official records mention 17 tests. Algerian historians believe the real number is closer to 57. The fallout was catastrophic. Tens of thousands of Algerians were killed or permanently scarred by radiation. And even after independence in 1962, the French grip didn't fully loosen. Economic and political interference continued. France has refused to return many of the cultural treasures and historical artifacts looted during colonial times. Algeria has demanded them back. France has stalled. So when Algeria makes a move like expelling diplomats, it's not just about a recent arrest. It's about decades, no, centuries, of unresolved trauma. It's a reminder that history does not simply fade away. It lives in our present. Let's also talk about Amir DZ, the man at the center of this storm. Amir DZ gained fame for his fiery videos that called out what he described as corruption and tyranny within the Algerian government. His content resonated with young Algerians, both inside the country and in the diaspora. His kidnapping sent shockwaves through the Algerian community in France, especially since he had been granted asylum and was considered a political refugee. France sees his abduction as an attack on its sovereignty and freedom of expression. Algeria sees him as a dangerous agitator, even going so far as to issue 9 international arrest warrants against him, accusing him of fraud and terrorism. The stakes are sky high. What began as a single incident is now morphing into a full-scale diplomatic crisis, and Algeria is not alone in this bold defiance. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have also taken hard stances against France. They've expelled ambassadors, ended military cooperation, and even shut down French-backed media outlets. These aren't isolated moves. They represent a broader African shift, a collective reclaiming of agency. What we're witnessing today is a new African consciousness rising. It's not just about rejecting colonial legacies, it's about charting a new course, one that values dignity, sovereignty, and mutual respect over dependency and neo-colonialism. France, on the other hand, is finding it increasingly difficult to maintain its traditional influence in the region. Once seen as a paternalistic guardian of its former colonies, it now faces a continent that is more connected, more aware, and more assertive than ever. In this emerging world order, African nations are demanding equal partnerships, and they are not afraid to make uncomfortable decisions to achieve them, even if it means upsetting powerful countries. But let me be clear again. Our hope at Voice of Africa is for peaceful solutions. Diplomatic disputes must never spiral into conflict. The pain of our shared history should guide us toward healing, not further harm. Dialogue, accountability, and mutual recognition of the past are essential if France and its former colonies are to build truly respectful relationships moving forward. Algeria's latest move may feel sudden, but when placed in the context of centuries of struggle, exploitation, and resistance, it becomes understandable. It's not just a diplomatic snub, it's a statement, a declaration that African nations will no longer be dictated to, that they will protect their citizens, their sovereignty, and their truth, no matter who they are dealing with. As we follow this story, let's keep our eyes wide open. The next few weeks will be critical. Will France escalate its response? Will Algeria dig in further? And what message does this send to other African countries still balancing old alliances with new aspirations? We will continue covering this and more right here on Voice of Africa. This channel is your home for fearless storytelling and deep dives into the issues that matter to the continent and the African diaspora. If you found this video insightful, please like, comment, and share it with your network. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join our growing family of truth seekers, change makers, and proud Africans. Once again, thank you to every one of our supporters. You make this possible. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and never stop raising your voice for Africa.